Started out as a very small company. I was working a full-time job when we started it, and just doing a few houses a year. And right now we're doing anywhere from 300 to 450 houses a year.
Beach's Quality Drywall has been in business since 1998, and no job is too big or too small.
Anywhere from basement development for everyday Joe Blow on the street down to as small as doing a repair where somebody's had a doorknob go through a wall.
Wait. Perfect.
So yes, Beaches can renovate your basement, and they can even do the work while you're still living upstairs. But why in this day of do-it-yourself shows would anyone spend money on something they could do themselves? Well, there's the rub.
This is a perfect example of why you should hire a professional to do your basement. This was started by the homeowner, and they've called us in afterwards. But on this wall here, this is about a 23-foot wall, and on this wall we would have used 2 sheets of drywall, 14 and a 12 probably, or a 14 and a 10 possibly, depending on where the studs line up. And as you can see here, they've got 6 pieces that they put into this. If the whole basement was done like this, I would for sure charge double what I would normally charge if I sent a professional boarding crew in there and sent a taper in afterwards, just because it is so much more work. Another one of the issues is that I'm going to have my boarder go through, and these screws that are popped right through, and most of them they're popped right through the paper, and they're really not being, the paper is what holds stuff in place, and these screws are really not holding anything. So that is another issue for sure. Another thing is we usually start with the ceilings and then do the walls afterwards, whereas they started on the wall.
We're just doing the ceiling in the basement. We've already started our first row here and our second row. Now we're going to start our third row with a 12-footer. And we're just tacking it up, and we'll router the lights out. Show them the machine gun, Mike. Come on. When you're doing your ceilings, the important thing is to get your bevels straight and tight together, because if you create any sort of a gap, that gap will transfer down to your other rows of drywall. And the problem just becomes worse and worse and worse as you go. So,
Steve, we're talking about why you should have a professional do your drywalling instead of doing it yourself. One issue is the taping, and that's kind of one of the more finer details, but you really can't, if they've started, it's tough for you to come in and fix that job, isn't it?
Essentially what you're doing is taking 2 perfectly flat surfaces and then adding 3 coats of mud over top of it and still trying to make it look like it's flat. So just slopping it on there by yourself, chances are it's not going to work out very well for you. I highly recommend that you do hire professionals for that part.
It also becomes pretty expensive too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, again, you know, if you've done it yourself and painted it and decided that it didn't work out for you, and then you call us in to try and make it look better, I mean, there's many problems that are associated. Drywall mud is not meant to go over top of paint, it's meant to go underneath paint, and quite often you'll end up with what we call fish-eyeing, where you end up with the little air holes all through it, and you end up having to put on more than the 3 coats, and then obviously you're going to have to pay me to do that as well as paying to repaint your house again, and it's just not going to be cheap no matter how you look at it.
So if you think you might be better off with a professional finishing your basement, give the folks at Beach's Quality Drywall a call. Your basement can look this good, and you won't lose any sleep in the process.